Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we haven't done a tier list in a while, and in today's video we're going to be doing a 2028 Democrat potential presidential candidate tier list for 2028. And we're going to be categorizing the candidates in terms of their electability. Do they pose a threat to J.D. Vance in 2028, who very likely will be the Republican nominee? Now, let me just say that I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not looking at this from a Democrat's perspective, although it is technically true that we're objectively gauging these candidates' electability in terms of who is the best option they could run, who is the worst option. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of people who probably will run, and you could make the case that they'd be either a really good option or really bad option, but there's no chance in hell that they would get through a primary or at least finish in the, I guess you would say, top couple choices, because it's true that people like AOC, Democrats might try to prevent her from getting the nomination, but she's still going to go out there and perform decently well in the primary if she's going to be like that Bernie Sanders successor. They've done the tour, he's kind of passed the torch sort of thing. So even though I think it's unlikely that she'll be the nominee, she's not going to be going in that tier because at least she will compete for, second place, maybe win some primaries at the rate things are going. But we never know what is going to happen 3 to 4 years from now. It could be somebody not even listed on the tier list. So we are going to fill this out. But really quickly, before we start with AOC and work our way down, I have to tell you guys about our latest friends over at the Wellness Company. Are you still feeling off after the COVID jab? You're not alone, and new research backs it up. In a groundbreaking study, Risk Stratification for Future Cardiac Arrest After the Jab, Dr. Peter McCullough highlights an alarming rise in sudden cardiac events among young and previously healthy individuals. His study found that tiny hidden patches of heart inflammation, often missed by doctors, could silently be building up, leading to sudden heart attacks during exercise or sleep. And that's why the Wellness Company created the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, crafted with 100% natural ingredients, specifically designed to help your body clear harmful spike proteins, reduce inflammation, and support heart health. Don't wait until symptoms strike. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all. Head to twc.health/redeagle and use code REDEAGLE to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/redeagle and use code REDEAGLE to get 10% off and get back to that pre-COVID feeling. All right, so back to the video. We're going to start off with AOC. AOC is somebody who is kind of seen as this far-left bomb thrower in Congress, whether it's on economic policy, green energy policy, social policy. She's taken a lot of positions, some of which sound good, a lot of which sound really bad, and all of which are not very popular. You have a lot of people that will talk about, well, this poll shows free healthcare is at 75%, but in reality, that's not exactly how these things are going to be framed in an election. You ask people, would you prefer your private health insurance plan or would you prefer a government health insurance plan that will raise your taxes? A lot of people are going to say the private insurance plan. So you could ask these questions whichever way you want. It's true that I think AOC has a better shot at the primary than people might think, because generationally, it's 12 years since Bernie Sanders got 40-some% of the Democrat vote in the primary. So it's not impossible that the far left, which has grown in terms of its faction in the Democrat Party, could potentially mount a candidate. However, it is clear that AOC is an awful candidate based on all the dirt that we talked about. Talk about Kamala Harris's dirt. AOC's got a lot more. I think you'd be talking about J.D. Vance winning a significant portion of the electoral vote pie. He probably would get in the mid 300s at a minimum, which qualifies for a modern day landslide, better known in this case as a Vance slide. So up next we have Amy Klobuchar. And she is a psychopath. She's the type to beat her staffers with combs and then use those combs to eat salad. That's not me being facetious. That's me being honest. Democrats don't typically like her too much. They see her as a moderate, even though her voting record is pretty much just a standard Democrat voting record. She goes in the won't escape the primary tier. And then we have Andy Beshear. Andy Beshear is somebody who gets a lot of hype online, but nobody knows who he is in real life. He's just a Nepo baby when it comes to politics. This is a guy who is the current governor of Kentucky, and I swear the only reason why he won is because so many people think that he's actually his father, who is actually moderate. I don't think the guy really poses much of a threat, and this is the same guy who told his opponent in a general, if he did pass the primary, that he wanted his daughter, or insinuated that his daughter should get R-worded because Vance happened to have a quote on abortion that Beshear decided to take out of context regarding that matter. I don't think he's a strong candidate. People say, oh, because he won in a blue state, but they don't even understand the circumstances of how he won in said blue state. So he's very overrated and will just bomb in the primary. Up next, we have Chris Murphy, who, again, is very boring, very bland, and probably is an also-ran who will not escape the primary or even get close to the primary. Up next, you have Cory Booker. Cory Booker, he is somebody who is totally a heterosexual male. He always talks about his levels of testosterone. He's a hothead. He is not somebody who exactly will excite the far left, not like you really have to in order to compete in an election. I think that overall, is he better than Kamala Harris potentially if she were to run again? Yeah, but again, the guy is very bland. He has a lot of ties to like big pharma and such. I think that maybe you could say he's one of the better Democrat candidates overall, which really shows how much of a disaster the party is in. But I think he's like lower B tier, maybe upper C tier. Like he could win if, Trump's approval rating is like 40% or below. But regardless, I don't think he's really that strong of a candidate. But the Democrat establishment could get behind him in a primary. So I don't think that he's exactly going to be like an also-ran level, but I don't think he's a strong candidate. I think you could make the case B or C tier, upper C or lower B. Up next, we have Dean Phillips, who ran against Biden in the primary and has this reputation like he's some traitor to the party as a result. He's in the won't escape a primary tier. Elizabeth Warren, she is awful. She's just so off-putting. It's like I don't even understand any Democrat who would really want to support her. She might get like more corporate backing than an AOC type, but she kind of tries to like ride the fence between the establishment and like the more anti-establishment left, which just end up being useful idiots for the establishment anyways. She's definitely like D to F tier. I think that she's electability-wise probably worse than current Kamala Harris, and if not worse, or I would say a little bit better than AOC. And then we have Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is awful. The only reason why he's not going to go in D tier is probably because of the fact that he's a sociopath who can try to talk his way out of everything, but everybody's onto his shtick at this point, to the point where I don't really even think it matters. The guy definitely, in my opinion, is not going to be able to win an election. I think Vance would skewer him in regards to the debate. This guy has more policy baggage, maybe less personal baggage. Maybe his optics are better than Kamala overall in terms of how he comes off to some people. But at the end of the day, he's just a total sociopath, and he's probably replacement level for Kamala. I think Vance would beat him no problem, but he's stronger than some of these other choices. Then you have Gretchen Whitmer. Whitmer is kind of in a position right now where you could make the case she's heading towards the purple tier of won't escape the primary because of the fact that she's decided to be nice to Donald Trump. But if the establishment were to, I guess, coalesce behind her under the right circumstances, I think that if she were to go to the general election, she's from the Midwest. She possibly is a better candidate than a lot of these other choices, and she's just very generic, and maybe that could be used to her advantage under the right circumstances in a general election. She would not be DOA. She does have the nursing home scandal. She is not really a solid governor, very overrated in Michigan, in my opinion, but still, I think, B tier is probably right for her. Then you have Jamal Bowman, who is just seen as a total clown. I don't even know if he would be able to escape the primary, but again, this is the fire alarm guy, got primaried out. He, if anything, would be able to be like the AOC stand-in. Maybe the far left coalesces behind him because they think he's like more electable or something, but I don't think that that's exactly going to be the case. But if he were to gain any traction, I think that you could make the case for a Vance slide. Up next, you have Jared Polis. Jared Polis, he as a governor has kind of become the Democrat version of Ron DeSantis because he took a state that was seen as a competitive state and molded it into a state for the far left, even though some of his policy is more, I guess you would say, center-right regarding like taxation, but he's very woke and he's attracted a lot of people from California who have been woke liberals away from California into Colorado. It's why Colorado partially has moved so far to the left. I think that he's not really that solid of a candidate. Also, he is gay. That could turn off some, minority male voters, although he doesn't necessarily rub people the wrong way nearly as much as somebody like, Pete Buttigieg would, because he just comes off like a smarmy elitist prick, and we'll get to him later. But up next, we have J.B. Pritzker, who I don't think we have room for this guy. I think we have to add a new tier below F tier, and this will be the FAT tier because he's just not going to fit in any other tier. So without further ado, I think we're going to put Pritzker right there. So up next, we have Jeff Jackson. He's the Attorney General for North Carolina. Even then, he only won on Josh Stein's coattails. I don't think he's all that strong. Won't escape a primary. Joaquin Castro, again, his brother ran, and they're basically the same person, the same candidate overall. I believe they may even be twins. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Both him and his brother probably would not be able to escape the primary. Maybe they would do well in like whatever Democrats are remaining in South Texas, in the Texas primary, who eventually will end up voting for not Donald Trump in this case, but J.D. Vance in the general anyways. I think both of these belong in the won't escape the primary tier. It just, the early states, it's not really a position where they would be able to gain momentum. Besides, the campaign that Julian Castro ran was really just solely targeted towards trying to appeal to Hispanic voters who don't really make up any population in the early states besides the state of Nevada. And even then, I think that you would probably see somebody like an AOC eat into their margins among some of like the far left Latino vote there. Also, John Fetterman, I think he would be an intriguing candidate, even though he definitely has interesting optics based on the fact that he doesn't dress normally for a politician. I'm shocked in this picture he's even in a suit, but he also still is suffering from that stroke. Now, overall, he's more likable than a lot of these Democrats on this list, but still, I think won't escape the primary tier is perfect for him. John Ossoff, if he's even a senator by then, he may lose in 2026, but if he wins, he's very bland of a candidate. He's definitely somebody that I think you could make the case is replacement level for Kamala Harris, put him in C tier. And then we have Josh Shapiro, who's extraordinarily overhyped and overrated. This guy has a lot of skeletons in his closet that we don't have to really get into, but at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, he's from Pennsylvania. His approval rating there is like, it's like 60%. That doesn't always translate well when you become a national figure. Even in 2026, because he's being talked about for 28, he might start to lose some support. But just because you're, a governor of a state doesn't even mean you're guaranteed to carry it in a general election. If he was Kamala's VP, Trump almost certainly would have still won the state of Pennsylvania, even though you could make the case Shapiro was a better pick than Walz. Overall, I think that probably he belongs in the could win if things go wrong tier, although I think you could also make the case that he would struggle to escape the primary because you do have the whole Gaza crowd who was not a fan of him. And if that was a big reason why they wouldn't even let him be VP, what makes you think they'd let him be at the top of the ticket? So up next, you have Josh Stein. I don't think he's going to run. Maybe he'd run in 2032. but I think he would just run for re-election as governor, so I'm putting him in won't escape the primary tier. Then you have Kamala Harris. Worse than Kamala 2024 is Kamala 2028. She might run for governor of California. She might run for president. Either way, we saw what happened. If you're a one-time loser and you come back the next time, you usually are going to lose again. No, you cannot use Trump in 2020 as an example because he already served as president and people were much more in favor of Donald Trump's first presidency than the Biden-Harris presidency. So you can't exactly conflate the two as equivalent situations. Up next, you have Kathy Hochul. Yeah, good luck. She is not going to escape the primary. That reminds me of when Bill de Blasio ran as a Democrat in 2020. Very unpopular New Yorker, would not go anywhere, might make a debate or two, but that's about it. Same thing with Laura Kelly as Andy Bashir. There's nothing special about her and the optics for many voters. It's going to be like, oh, you're too moderate. You can win in Kansas. That's not going to win nationwide. So I don't really see her as a threat to the nomination, let alone the general election. Then we have Mark Kelly. I think Mark Kelly's overrated, to be honest. I don't even think that he would escape a primary, but it is true that the Democrat establishment does like him. I believe Obama wanted him to step in for Biden instead of Kamala in 2024. Like, he's bald, he's an astronaut, he's very bland. He's very bland. He faced two very weak candidates at the Senate level and barely got by both times. I mean, I do think that if he ends up running for re-election for Senate, he's going to lose. He has like that moderate appeal. I think that you could make the case he'd be better than Kamala, but I still think that Vance would be favored. I don't think that it's like a 50-50 race with him. So then you have Mary Peltola, who again likely won't escape the primary, is a fake moderate from Alaska, lost her re-election bid. Maybe she runs for governor. I don't think she wins the governorship in 26. I don't think she runs for president. But if she does, I don't think she wins the primary. Michael Bennet, same thing. Mitch Landrieu, I don't think that he's going to escape the primary either. Nina Turner might try to gain traction because the far left loves her, but she's an atrocious candidate, very far left. Can't win a primary on the Democrat side, but because she's high profile enough, I think we'll put her in the Vance slide territory. So Pete Buttigieg, he is surging in the polls because they're trying to give him a makeover, sending him on this media tour. And what do you have with Buttigieg? You have somebody who's a smarmy elitist prick, tries to lecture Christians on their faith, lectures men about what real masculinity is, and he's a total joke. He's a total clown. He's also controlled by the corporations, has like negative minority appeal. You're talking about Vance winning the Hispanic vote outright. You're talking about, Vance winning like 40% of black men under the age of 29 if Buttigieg is the nominee. He's an atrocious candidate overall, will accelerate the realignment. And it's not just because of his sexuality, it's just because of who he is. I think that plays a role, but it's not the entire thing here. So then you have Phil Murphy, who, again, I think he's in the won't escape a primary tier, just a bland governor, not even very popular in New Jersey. Raphael Warnock, he's definitely somebody, I mean, he's from a swing state. He's like one of those, oh, I'm like a reverend, but I'm also pro-abortion type of guys. And there's nothing very special about him. There's the potential domestic abuse scandal as well that he has. I think that overall you could say replacement level for Kamala Harris. I think Vance would beat him fairly easily. Then you have Ro Khanna, who's interesting. I think that he's probably like the far left option that might actually pose a threat because he at least is pragmatic. He tries to be more civil. I've been back and forth with him on Twitter a couple times myself, but either way, when it comes to Ro Khanna, he still has a lot of those like more unpopular policies. And when it comes to populism, the left will take these stances that are not exactly all that popular and then get outflanked by somebody like a J.D. Vance who, in terms of policies, more populist than Trump. I think overall he's not a horrible candidate, but he's definitely replacement level for Kamala Harris. Then you have Roy Cooper. This guy's getting up there in age. I don't think he's going to escape the primary overall. I don't think he's that strong of a candidate, but I mean, still, maybe because he has that name recognition, if the establishment gets behind him, I think that maybe you could say he's like bland enough. Maybe he could win if things go wrong in the country over the next 4 years. But regardless, I really just don't see him making it out of a primary. Then you have Ruben Gallego, who is somebody who won. He overperformed by a lot in the Senate race, and a lot of that was due to him doing well with Hispanic voters. I still think that overall, as a candidate, he's probably replacement level for Kamala Harris. I don't think that he would make it out of a primary, though. He also went through an ugly divorce, so he definitely has a lot of baggage. Then we have everybody's favorite to talk about, Stephen A. Smith, who I think that, if anything, he's got a much better shot at running in a Republican primary in the future than a Democrat primary. I do think he's interesting. He's entertaining. He's definitely like a radio guy, even though he's like on TV, who likes to stir stuff up for clicks. I don't even know if he has any true convictions, but is he right about the Democrats being completely broken? Yeah. Would it be fun to watch him run? Yeah. People will say, well, you guys said this about Trump in 2015. Well, I didn't say that, but a lot of people at the time were saying that about Trump. Oh, he's like a celebrity candidate. Don't take him serious. And at the end of the day, that was technically true. But still, I feel like when it comes down to Stephen A. Smith, this is a guy who is just not going to be taken serious by the Democrat electorate. If Trump ran as a Democrat in 2016 for one reason or another, he would not have gone far in their primary. The Republicans tend to be the party that's more likely to embrace outsiders, and Stephen A. Smith isn't like some woke outsider either. Like, I know Mark Cuban's not on this list. I think he would be an intriguing choice. I think A tier, even though he's a total clown. You could make the case that under the right circumstances, his candidacy could do very well, or it could do not so well. But regardless, he's somebody who could be in the A tier. But Stephen A. Smith, he would not escape a primary. And then you have Tammy Baldwin. I'm not even entirely sure she's going to run. She's somebody who has a lot of skeletons in her closet, but is an electoral juggernaut in the state of Wisconsin. I think maybe she might make her way onto a ticket as a VP. But, I mean, she's getting up there in age too. I'm not sure she would escape the primary. Then you have Tim Walz, who, I mean, we saw what happened with him on the ticket. If anything, he was a drag on it. Democrats said, oh, no, he's gonna do super well with the rural voters because he, did well with them 10 years ago in Minnesota or something. Overall, I think he's an atrocious candidate. I would put him on par with Kamala Harris running again. He may even do worse. So that leaves us with one Wes Moore, who's the governor of Maryland. This guy is very generic. He is somebody who honestly could be able to pass himself off as a moderate despite having a track record of not being one, and his track record is not exactly that long. He's been like this military guy. He looks like every TV stand-in president for Obama when they had a black guy be president when Obama was president, because they couldn't obviously cast Obama in those roles. It was basically somebody like Wes Moore. I think overall he's a decently strong candidate, and maybe he's not. I know that he said he's not running for president, but a lot of people say that and then run, just like Cory Booker did in 2020, for example. So I don't think that exactly is going to add up. I still think Vance would easily be able to defeat Wes Moore, but I think he's generic enough, a Moore-Whitmer ticket possibly could stop the Democrats bleeding among black voters. They could do well enough in Michigan to win. I still think it would be a very, very hard-fought election, and they would have a lot to answer to. But if I'm the Democrats, that would definitely be the ticket that I would probably want to rig my primary for, as they've rigged the primary in 2016 and 2020, and technically 2024 as well, because they didn't even have one. But that's the way it is. So you have a lot of people who would never escape the primary, some of which would do well electorally, some of which would not do so well if they made it to the general. Then you have Pritzker in his own tier because he would not fit in any other tiers. The Vance slide tier, the worse than Kamala 2024 tier, which does include Kamala 2028, the replacement level for Kamala tier, the could win if things go wrong tier, depending on the circumstances, and then we have the strongest candidate who possibly could pose a threat to a Vance Rubio ticket in Wes Moore. And that's it. I mean, there's definitely some candidates that may not have been included on this list. Mark Cuban, for example. I'm sure there's plenty of others, and we'll definitely update this list as we get closer to 2028. But regardless, it is interesting to kind of see what the opposition is cooking up, and it's not really something all that solid. Even when it comes down to the A and B tier candidates, I don't even know if they're going to be the front runners to get out of the primary. I mean, it seems like you have a lot of people deluded enough to thinking, oh, it's going to be like Buttigieg v. AOC, and if that's what the Democrat Party has become, that is not a party that can build a coalition that can win a national presidential election level turnout election. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.